What up, guys? Welcome to the New American Dream Podcast. I'm your host, George Gibson. Alrighty, this is the first episode of 2022, and this episode is the first episode I recorded after I attended the Real Estate Miami conference. That was my first real estate Miami type of seminar conference I went to. And when I tell you that the main guest was Shark Tank Kevin O'Leary and the real estate guru Jay Morrison himself. And I was contemplating going. I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't really want to know if it was worth it. But let me tell you, it was definitely worth every penny and a couple more nickels because I learned so much. I met awesome people. And as you can see, today's guest, I met him at the real estate conference in Miami. And it was just, the main thing about it is I was around like-minded people. And like-minded people, it bring out the best in you and others. Because a lot of times in my daily life, I'm not around young, hungry real estate investors, business owners, successful, super successful. It was mega successful people in here. And it was just great to connect with people. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to give you a couple things that I learned that I feel like, you probably can take with you. One is you can't become a millionaire, even almost $100,000 person by yourself. You have to learn to delegate. And, that's one of the hardest part about becoming a CEO or boss. You got to learn how to, pick the right team and delegate certain tasks. So one of the things that Kevin O'Leary said was basically anything that is less than $25 an hour, you pretty much should be eliminating and letting other people handle them tasks. So for instance, like editing this podcast hopefully is getting edited by somebody else this time. And hopefully you don't notice it. But that's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to leverage my time for the best time it can be used for, which is, finding better guests, more guests, and finding more real estate deals and just focusing on me, even just being with my family, my son. That is what, is top priority in my life right now. So, that's one of the things. Another thing I learned from Jay Morrison is I seen him fail in front of the entire class. And he might not consider a failure, but he went up to the Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, and he basically asked Kevin O'Leary, could he use his team to help him out with a certain situation? And Kevin O'Leary politely said no in a polite, professional way. And I just thought that was like so, brave of him, because I really wanted to get up and ask the question too, but I was kind of nervous. I'm like, what if it's a dumb question? What if this? But, I seen Jay Morrison, which is he already a top tier guy. So he got up there, asked his question. He said no, and he came back and, sat down. And it wasn't the end of the world. And the last thing I would say before, we jump into this episode is Kevin O'Leary probably talked for 1 hour and it felt like he talked for 4 hours. And what I mean by that is, just like I'm talking now, he did not put any words out to us that wasn't needed. He talked like he was on TV. He only gave us the meat. Get straight to the point. Be direct with people. Sometimes it may hurt, but give us the meat. Be direct. Don't beat around the bush, because that's how you make progress. You don't make progress by, telling long stories. You make progress by giving us what we need to be successful. And that's what you need to do to your team. You need to tell the people what they need to do, how they need to do it. And, it might hurt their feelings, it might not, but at least we can be, upfront with each other. So this episode right here is coming to you live in effect. This is my first time meeting somebody out, in public at somewhere and bringing them on the podcast. So hopefully 2022, we get more of that, but enough of me talking. I'm ready to get into this episode. Peace. All right. Welcome to the show. We have Kenneth Townsel. What's up, man?
What's up, bro? How you doing, George? Blessed to be here. Happy to share my real estate experiences with you and see what you got going on and go from there. And hopefully those who are watching can learn something from us and take action.
Yes. So, like, little backstory. This is the first time I went to an event. I went to an event like 2 weeks ago, I think. What, a week ago or 2 weeks? It was last week, wasn't it?
A week and a half.
Yeah,
I think.
we was in
2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, so it was about 2 weeks ago, but we went to Miami to a real estate event, like Jay Morrison, Kevin O'Leary, and that's where me and Kenneth met at. And it was like, the event was crazy. It was a real estate event, and we learned so much from it. So I met him. He told me about his story. I'm like, bruh, you got to come on a New American Dream podcast. So, like, just give the people like a little 30-second clip of who you are and what you do.
Well, before I do that, I would like to say I was surprised to meet you too, because I felt like I had met George previously. And I guess I kind of did, because I'm a big avid fan of Bigger Pockets podcast. And he was on there. As soon as he said it, like his voice reminded me like that exact podcast, because I listened to it twice.
God, I didn't know that.
I couldn't tell you all that, bro.
Yeah.
I ain't that big of a fan, boy.
Yeah.
But it was definitely dope to meet someone that was like-minded and just got the ambition and drive. So I'm Ken Townsel, Northwest Indiana, real estate investor. I'm also an agent, but primarily focused on the investments. And kind of like Georgia, it all started with a dream, and grew up in an area that wasn't the best. And I actually got a good job, but I knew that there's more out there for me. So I wanted to reach my potential. I just knew working that 9 to 5 wasn't gonna get it. So that's how I jumped into real estate.
Okay. So all right, let's just back up. So because you're a businessman, entrepreneur. How was your life growing up? Was you middle class, poor? Like, how was your life growing up as a child?
The middle class is crazy nowadays, so I don't even know how you define that. Like, what's the middle class? But I wasn't middle class, but I wasn't poor. I had everything I needed. My mom and my dad both work hard to provide. But we didn't have any like extras. I had the needs. Wants were, a dime. They weren't that often. So I always just wanted more ever since a kid, and just always admired people that were in the real estate and seen that was possible.
But was your parents entrepreneurs, or were they like 9 to 5s?
No, so it's crazy. Still to this day, both of my parents are very like, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to go home, cook, watch TV, and I'm going to do it again. Like very strict to the base. Like, this is what we're going to do. No taking risks or anything like that. So I'm the exact opposite. And I actually noticed that as a kid, and I was just like, I'd rather shoot and miss than just never shoot at all. So,
dang, that's crazy. So it's like, all right, that's crazy, because you want to be a business entrepreneur, but you didn't see it. Most people, like a lot of my guests, their dad owned like a convenience store, or one of the parents was some kind of business owner, and that's what I gave them the hindsight to want to be, self-employed. So
I didn't have really quick. I didn't have it from my parents, but I did have other people that grew up in the area I grew up in. It wasn't too many successful people, to be honest with you. The ones who inspired me the most were the ones that weren't doing the best, the ones that were drinking every day out there doing drugs and stuff. I know I didn't want to do that, so that led me to figure out what can I do to not have that type of life and be more successful, and just lead my family. So.
Okay. So like, all right, like fast forward to high school, if you like, they say, all right, Ken was most voted or most likely to be what out of high school? What would like your social circle would have said back then?
To win, I won best hairstyle. I never had it. It's actually the trophies are back on.
Oh man, he got a best hairstyle, bro. That's crazy.
And I never had a hairstyle. I just had like a fade and some decent hair, and I won on best friends with my friends. What bothered me is that I did not win top 5 to most likely succeed, and I felt like that I should have been in that. And I just talked to one of my mentors about this. I had some type of resentment of that for a while, and that still fuels me, because like, I'm going to go out there and prove that I am going to be successful. So if that answers your question.
Nah, that's funny. You had like you that feel like you should have been voted most successful or something like that, and nobody ain't see it. Maybe ain't see the potential all the way, but you knew in the back of your head, I'm probably gonna be more successful.
I was probably in there somewhere, maybe some runner-up votes, but I didn't make the top 5. So I'm like, okay, let me put that in the back of my mind, and a few years down the road, let's see where we're all at. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Leaving high school, what's next for you?
I worked a lot through high school. It's funny. My mom told me in high school, either you're going to get your grades up or I'm going to start buying you Jordans. And I was like, I just get a job. In hindsight, I probably should have just listened to her and got my grades up. But like starting high school, and that continued going on through college. So I worked I actually thought of this today, bro. I'm kind of skipping across the place, but I worked all of my teens, so I
Right.
blew a lot of money. I messed up a lot of money, and I was fortunate to get in a decent school, Purdue Calumet, here in Northwest Indiana, and I worked at a hardware store for a couple of years. Then I got to the job I spoke about. So in my early 20s, I was able to get a good career and kind of learn how to save and things like that. So for my 20s, I spent a lot of it saving and learning and like getting wisdom and stuff. And now I feel like I just turned 30. I'll be 31 in about 2 weeks. My 30s are for me to really, take that next step, show like how to spend and blow money. I learned how to save. Now it's how to learn how to make money and just start to build that family wealth. So that's kind of how it went.
Yeah. And like for people listening, the most important part you said right there, like in the most time in the 20s, that's when people mess up the money. And then the 30s is the time to get it right. You say you kind of making money in your teens and blew it. And then your 20s, you kind of got a head start. That's how, I look at it.
Yeah, and I think me starting so early, like I lied to my first job. I was supposed to be 16. Me and my mom like recreated the birth certificate in 1991, 90 hired, and I was like 15 in 3 months or something like that. It's always been instilled in me. I used to sell like little candy in middle
Right.
school. I would walk around the block and see who wanted their trash empty and see if they'll pay me, stuff like that. So I've always had that spirit, and it gave me the ability to like, okay, I made the money, then I spent it on shoes right away, or just whatever clothes. Try to be fly back then. And in the 20s, I had the chance to kind of, all right, learn some like, okay, because we don't get taught that. Like
Right.
in my school, we don't really get taught financial literacy to the point where it's like if you get some money, you just go blow it instead of like learning the principles of investing and things like that.
All right. All right. So, all right, in your 20s, when you started making money and you saving money, like what made you think, all right, it's got to be something more than just this job? Like, what was that
Yeah,
like that moment?
uh man, the job I got, it's like not a dream job, but a lot of people in my area love that job. It's a steel mill. Because it provides a great, don't get me wrong, it provides a great income for your family. It's like the health insurance is really good. There's a lot of benefits, especially retirement and stuff. But I would go to work and for this job, you have to put in a certain amount of hours to really get what you're trying to make. I was making six figures, but I was like, man, I'm hours. I'm not. I'm working with people twice my age. I work with some people that I went to school with their kids. Like I was just classmate with your son, and now I'm working with you.
Dang.
Um, and I just knew like, I mean, people work there 30, 40, 50 years. And I'm just like, this is not something I want to do. So I knew the whole time I wanted to kind of leverage that job and turn this into something for myself. But it's just, going through those steps to get to that part where you can start to leverage that job and use the money to invest and go from there.
Yeah, so for like people who listen who thinking like jobs are real bad or don't nobody want to work, the job is, I say that the hourly wage is the money to get you so you get off hourly wage. So like when you start making that six figures or high five figures, that money is to get you to not be working by the hour no more. That's how I look at it.
Man, that's fact, bro. And I'm gonna quote somebody. I hate that I can't remember his name, but I literally watched the podcast today with I Am Cash. I think that's his
Okay.
name. And it was a guy on there. He was saying you gotta treat like you gotta leverage your W-2 or your day job, right? If you're trying to start a side job or entrepreneur or whatever, and use that as like think of your job as your business partner, right? Instead of thinking of it as a burden and like, oh man, I gotta go up and do this job. No, you're going to do this job to fuel your other life that you're going to create, and there's going to come, in the year. So just really about mindset. Yeah, I don't like, going to this job, but at the same time, I understand why I'm here, what I'm here to do. And as long as you got that understanding, that mindset, it'll be a lot easier to go do that because this is not for forever. This is just until you take off into your other career.
I hope people
And
believe
that's
that,
quote
man.
him. So that's quote him. So
Right. No. But the thing about it, where you just summed up like basically the whole reason I do this podcast, and it's like I hope people believe it. Like the job, if you got a job right now and you making decent money, I tell people go buy as many houses as you can because the moment you start working, it becomes an obstacle to buy a house because you can't leverage that W-2 no more. So like if you got a good job,
exactly,
go buy as many houses. Stop buying cars, buy
exactly,
houses.
exactly.
But
And George, like so when you first start, it's hard to get like money from investors or like a loan company or lender if you don't have a W-2. But once you start to call yourself a real estate investor, you don't really have to have a W-2. You kind of learn like ways to go around that, but it's hard to do that from the jump when you don't really have that background of having a W-2 or something to say, hey, this is how I'm going to repay you guys. So it goes a long way.
Definitely. All right. So let's go to the first like real estate transaction you did. What was it? The first one where you buying it, your name on the deed. How was that deal?
Yeah, it was 2018. 2018. And I'm aggressive, but I'm not impulsive. But at the time, I did know that I wanted to jump into the real estate game. I had finished college like a year before that. I had ended up going to get my real estate license, which my job paid for it. So they paid for me to go get my real estate license. So how cool is that?
Yeah.
And so I got that. I'm like, all right, let's jump into it. So I found a local investor who wanted to get rid of a house, and I jumped right into it. And it was rough. it was definitely rough. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have the concept of budgeting the right way. I should have. I did not know the difficulty of dealing with contractors. Just a lot of getting permits, in particular in the city I was in, was very difficult as far as pulling those permits. So just a lot. I broke my wrist a month or so into the project, playing flag football. Yeah. And so it was definitely difficult. It took me a year to finish that project, which is ridiculous. So that's way too long. So you definitely have to,
But what was this, like a flip house? What were you? Was it a rental property? How was this?
It was a flip, bro, and I just didn't like for people who I knew you got to do budgets, you got to have like your contractors lined up beforehand, and I hadn't done any of that stuff. So that's what really prolonged it, and not knowing how to work with the contract, they kept dragging me along, and just like it was bad, bro. And I was just like, it was months where I just wouldn't do much. It just wasn't. It was tough.
Nah, I always, but the toughest, that lasted a year, but that was a whole year of like growing pain, basically, because you learn what not to do, what to do, you should have did. So I think like sometimes universe make that first deal last a year so that you can learn. You probably learned so much that you wouldn't make the mistakes again in the second deal. So
man, what?
So what is something like, all right, I know you probably learned a lot, but what was the main mistake? Did you overpay? What the numbers look like? What were you going for and what happened?
That's the crazy thing, bro. I really don't know like my whole income expenses all on that because I really wasn't doing the budget. I know I didn't make any money on it, but I did make my initial investment back, and we'll get into that. But it was just bad planning altogether. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a structure of the business. I didn't understand how to get permits. And really the biggest thing, I didn't have going back. That's a big thing, not only finding them, but finding quality contractors who's not going to run off on you when you pay them, or they understand what you're trying to do and that you can meet in the middle with and work together, opposed to you guys butting heads doing the whole project.
Right. Okay. That is, I mean, that's typical. So anybody buying, like, that's the most important thing, getting good partners when you're trying to do a flip or anything in real estate. The better your partner, the easier your job. So I was gonna say, all right, this is kind of like different for real estate, but this is a question I always ask my guests. If God came down and like whispered, all right, Ken, this is what I want you to do while you on earth, like your purpose. What do you think like he wants you to do? Like why are you here?
Oh man, that's a great question, but at the same time, it's a tough one. But I do believe that it would be related to real estate and some form of giving back. Obviously, I'm still trying to build to the point where I can really make an impact on the community, giving back financially, but that doesn't mean that that's going to stop me from giving back as far as knowledge and just really through my actions, bro. Showing up and saying, hey, I grew up in this neighborhood and I ended up buying 3 properties on the street that I grew up on right now. Maybe a 4th might be coming soon. I don't know. We'll see. Just, are materialistic, but saying, hey, I'm from the same place you're from, and now this is achievable for you too if you put your head together, if you get your head together and do the right things. So that's really big for me.
Okay. All right. So this is the first right here. I wish I had a bell. Ding, ding, ding. So basically, I got listeners. I reached out to my listeners and I was like, put out if somebody want to come on and ask a question. So we got a person, they're gonna come on and ask you a real estate question. Let's see.
Let's do it. I love it, bro.
Let's see if this works. Let's see. Okay. So yes, so if anybody you think you have questions and you would like to come on the podcast and ask your question live, please reach out, maybe Instagram, George Do Real Estate, and you can have your question answered live by guests.
Ask away. Ask away.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, we have Summer.
This is Melissa.
Melissa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're live on the air. Let's go ahead. This is Kenneth. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Great. Hi, Kenneth. So my question is, so for an out-of-state investor, what do you need to buy a property in any day?
All right, great question. And it's crazy because I was listening to a podcast earlier on this, and that's why I met George at the conference out of Miami. I'm looking to invest out of state. So what you need is a team. Obviously, you may have your structure set up back home. You could do stuff like that as far as run your numbers and see the property and really get a gist of the numbers on the property. But you're going to need an agent for sure, because you're going to need someone to go check out the property. And more so, you're going to need someone that understands the area. It's all about numbers. Is all about real estate. I mean, real estate is all about numbers. So as long as you know those numbers, you'll be good. And the agent can help you do that as far as like homes area, the location. Is this potential area going to see a lot of growth in the next 5 years? So that's very important. And back to what I was just talking about with George, finding a way to be able to handle your contractors. Maybe, you can do that through the real estate agent also, or you can build a relationship and gain a rapport with them yourself. That's going to be very important. And lastly, I would say a local lender. I really think whatever area you are in, it's important to have a lender in the area, because you're not going to get investment loans through Chase or any of these big banks. But if you go to that region and maybe go to a credit union or a small local bank, you can really get some good deals and start deals.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Hey,
No problem.
Melissa, so where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Los Angeles, California.
All right.
Oh, man.
All right. See, all right.
That's
Yeah.
why she wants to invest out of state.
Exactly.
All right, Ken. So she's out of state all the way. If anybody don't know, you live under like a rock. California is like the most expensive place to buy in the world. So, all right, she don't know nobody. Say, I guess a main place right now, like Detroit, maybe, or maybe not Detroit, but somewhere in the Midwest. How would you even structure that if you was doing that?
So a lot of points of what I just mentioned, but also I guess I can add on. I'm glad you kind of added on. You would need a property manager too, because you can manage it, but think how difficult that would be. A different time zone, different area, place you don't understand, trying to manage that property if it was like a rental or whatnot. Even really a flip, you need someone feet on the ground to be able to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is the pictures we took. This is the contract that got signed. Things of that nature. You can absolutely find amazing deals in the Midwest, which is where I invest at. Opposed to California, it's just again having that team on the ground. But you'll be able to find properties that will go for a lot less and cash flow for a lot more in the Midwest. You would.
Definitely. So I think for people who want to invest out of state, from what Kenny said and Melissa saying, you got to have somebody on the ground. Don't just buy a property somewhere where you never been, don't know nobody there. You need somebody you trust there in that town or city to look over the property and make sure the property even exists, because nowadays they got virtual property. So watch out. All right. Thanks, Melissa, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Ken.
Yo.
All right. That was the first, and it worked out perfect. All right. So
that was dope, bro.
All right. So, all right. For people, or even you in general, what's your method? You are the hunter. You're looking for a property. What are you looking for? Like, what's the deal to Ken?
Location, really. Location plays a lot. So I do invest in an area that some people may say like a C-class area, if you're familiar with the class rankings, A, B, C, D, E, F. So location is everything, because you may have a radius that's, let's say, half a mile, and one property may be worth 150, one may be worth 40. So you really got to focus on those pocket things towards the end and focus on that. And then I focus on, the rehab budget, things of that nature. How soon can I get in out of it? Because a lot of people don't realize, and this is more so for flips. Yes, it's cool to make a decent amount of money on a flip, right? But at the same time, you want to mitigate your risk as much as possible. So if I can find a property that I just got to, throw some flooring in and, paint here and there and make a quick, whatever the amount would be, I'm also, I like that too, because maybe I won't make as much, but me getting in and out is a lot quicker and I'm mitigating my risk. I'm not putting that much risk into it. Opposed to sometimes you're doing a full gut, all type of stuff comes up when you're doing a full gut of a project.
So would you recommend a full gut for your first flip? Would you have a take on that?
It's gonna go back to the numbers, bro. If the numbers make sense, it's possible. But I will say I wouldn't. That wouldn't be my first option for someone new, because it's just so much that comes with a new gut. I mean, a new investor working on a property that's a gut. As far as that was my first property. It needed foundation, it needed siding, it needed everything, and we did do a lot of that work. So I got a chance to learn a lot about it. But at the same time, it was almost overwhelming as far as the amount of work and the learning I had to do. I got through it, but if I can go, maybe we do. Maybe not as bad.
Okay. So right now, what's going on? How are you looking right now in your portfolio as far as renters and flips?
It's been a really good last 12 to 18 months. Made a lot of connections and stuff. So now we're up to 12 rental properties. Just closed on 2 weeks ago, and right now we're doing 5 flips, so 17 properties in total. I don't know how this happened. It kind of got crazy.
So that's leading into my next question. How are you not getting gray hair right now? You're managing all this by yourself. How are you managing all this?
A team. So going back to what we were saying with her, you got to build a team. So it's not easy, bro. Like we started saying with the W-2, I always wasn't like this. I never thought I would kind of be here this quick, at least I would say. So having, I'm a realtor, so I'm good with that part, but my wife helps a lot. Having an accountant, having great contractors now. We came a long way from the first contractors we had, property management company.
Hey, wait. How do you recognize a good contractor and a bad contractor now that you have both? What are some signs to look out for?
Accountability. Or photos of the other work. Referrals are really big. Trying them out for a few weeks maybe and saying, hey, we're gonna go like this really, for the first initial couple payments to see how you work out, and then go from there. And just really sticking to their word, man. If you say you're gonna be here, just be here at that time. And it's a lot of warning signs. So I've learned to cut ties way faster now. Like you mess around first week or two, this is probably not the place for you, bro. Just because you got to understand it's a bigger picture for both of us. The faster that you can get down this property, you can get to the next one, and we can keep this. So that.
So if the 2 things I look out for is 1, showing up on time and calling or being wherever they say, and 2, they need money before they even start. That's a big red X, A lot of a professional contractor, or one has got his stuff together. He don't want to ask for money to buy the materials or ask for money up front, too much, unless you want 10%, but not paying up 50% or buying equipment. Yeah.
Especially when you're just first meeting someone. I mean, so there's ways around that too. Say, hey, I'll meet you at the store. I'll purchase the material. If they want a down payment. And I'm fine with my contractors that have been working with me for a while now. Okay, this is the initial fee, but we've gained a rapport together, so that's different. But if I just met you, no, you don't want to just fork over a bunch of money, because I don't know if you would agree, George, but it's probably more bad contractors out there than there are good ones. So
90% are bad. 90%, bro. I've been through them all. I've been the top felony prison to people who in the dirt. So, it's like you pay for what you get, or really it's not even you pay for what you get. I shouldn't say that. Sometimes you got to find people who understand your vision. So like you said, if they realize, hey, if I get this job done, maybe I'm gonna get even more work. That's my thing. If you do good on this, it's so much more work. So a lot of people that I used to deal with when I first started, they missed out because now the ball rolling. And it's like, they skipped out on something where it wasn't nothing there,
Yeah, absolutely, man. And with these days too, your reputation and word of mouth go a long way. So, like recently in my area, people have been, bashing one another on Facebook and stuff like that. So you got to be careful too, because your brand and your name is everything. So stay when it gets really small. So you want to be able to keep, your brand and your name good in people's eyes, so you get business for years to come. And not, how long are you gonna be in business if you do every person you work with dirty? You're not gonna be in business long. So
Yes, your brand. Just answer the phone. All right. So, like, what is something you spend money on that you feel like this add tons of value to my life? So, for instance, example, some people say a cleaning lady, a maid, or I forgot, maybe a chef or something like that. But what's something you feel like you like? You know what? I know it costs a lot, or it costs. I don't have to buy it, but I spend money on it, and it brings so much value to your daily life.
this is a new one for me, so I'm still learning um, all of the ins and outs of it. But my virtual assistant, like
Okay.
she's been really huge. You were just asking like, how do I deal with the day to day stuff? It's been crazy. So to have her and be able to delegate certain tasks to her, as far as like paperwork and emails and calls and certain stuff that's related to everyday stuff, accounting, like doing the budgets. I can do all of these things,
Right.
but half of them I don't like to do, and the other half is just time consuming to the point where my time is more valuable doing other stuff, as far as like trying to acquire stuff. It's huge. So I spend a lot of time meeting people like yourself and talking and doing things like that. So I would rather be out doing that, which I like to do, opposed to pushing paper all day. So the VA would be the answer to it, as far as that. She's been great so far.
Yeah, and the one thing we did learn in Miami, and which I'm pretty sure you learned too, Ken, but I don't know if who said it, but it was like anything that pays less than $25 an hour. So if it costs $25 an hour, you shouldn't be doing it, basically, because Kevin O'Leary was like, your time is valuable, so you need to do, the most important task out of all the tasks. Don't, like today. I looked at my neighbors, like my yard got cut. I don't know where I was at, but it got cut. Then I looked across the street, like my neighbor's out there cutting their yard, and then he was cutting their yard. And I'm like, man, that you saving $20, but what could you do for that hour?
That's crazy. I just told my wife that I'm done cutting the grass. We got a riding mower. So I was just like, nah, I bought this thing. I need to use it. And I was like, that's ham advice. I'm selling that thing as soon as it gets warm here. And I'm done.
But look, I still got my lawnmower just in case of emergency. But man, as far
I
as
would keep a backup one, like a push one, but
yeah, oh yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
No.
definitely people are always looking at counting pennies, and that's the one thing that hold a small business back is counting pennies, because sometimes you can spend a little bit more to help you grow and free up your time, financial freedom.
Being cheap is expensive.
That's in
I've
quotations.
learned that through trial and error.
So like, all right, so far, what's like the biggest I can say obstacle or hurdle you have faced in real estate? Like what was like you got in a hurdle and you got stuck?
So yeah, let's kind of go back to the story. I did that flip. I got back my initial investment, and so with that, I ended up buying 3 rental properties because I wanted to see how rentals were. I did the flip thing, and now like let's see how the rentals go. So I just bought, really liked it, but I was like, all right, now I'm out of money. Not out of money, but I didn't have enough, because obviously I'm buying houses. It's not like I could just go buy a lot. So for about a year, bro, I really got stagnant. I wasn't comfortable, or I wasn't moving up, in the position I was at my other brokerage, and I just was kind of, I felt stagnant, but at the same time, I was like, let me educate myself as much as possible. So I dug into Bigger Pockets Tough. I bought a bunch of books. I listened to a bunch of YouTube videos and podcasts, and then I started networking. And I did all of that for maybe about a year, especially with COVID and all that stuff. Just because I was able to do all of that stuff that I learned, and I got over that hurdle of like, okay, how do I finance properties with, I'm not gonna say no money down, but not a lot of my money down, and things like that. And it all came from networking, meeting people who put me in these places, and just educating myself, self-educating as far as like, how do I do these? And I learned that through podcasts, books, and YouTube.
But the one thing you do that I hate when people do this, I shouldn't say hate, but they keep learning and never pulling the trigger. Like you have to, you know, like that first deal, it took you a year, but at least you did something. Because if you wouldn't have did nothing, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be where you're at today, you know, because you wouldn't have learned all the things you learned in that whole year.
Absolutely. Real quick, it's when people like say stuff like that, it's a young lady from my area. She wrote a book called Leap. And so to me, that's big because some people want to like just jump into stuff, but a jump is just a physical straight up for the most part. Sometimes when you got something like that, you got to make a leap, which is over, not straight up, but more of an over motion to jump over whatever that hurdle is. So once you do that, I feel like you'll be blessed enough to go on from there, and you'll have what it takes to kind of finish it out. But if you never take that leap, you're never going to know what the other side is like.
Yeah, it sounds like a leap of faith. You leap into faith. All right. What's something you do better than most people? Like, what's like, what's something like, you know, like if somebody having trouble with this, they're going to call you.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I want to say I'm good at networking. Okay. I think you got a display of that at the conference. And for me, I think it's just being organized and structured and stuff like that, kind of being an accountable one. I went on a trip with my homies a few months back, and they were talking about something, and all of a sudden I hear, well, we should give the kids possible. And I know that sounds crazy. It's not like a skill or something like that. But
no, that is a skill. That's a big skill. You know, we got to get back home. Yeah, that's even your group of guys, your team. At least they know like where to go. We go to here for that, and that's so important in business to know like to place people in a position where they'll strive at instead of like placing people in a position where they struggling. So put like friends and family or whoever, or even your employees, put them in a position where they are thriving at it because they really naturally good at it. And I think the whole world will benefit from it, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
So, all right, if you had a loudspeaker and you could pretty much say one thing to like, I don't know if the world or the millennials, what would that be? Like you had one speaker and you had 10 seconds to say something and the whole world could hear your voice. What would you say?
For those that do have some type of spirituality, I would say definitely put the plans in God's hand and rely on his will through that, because that's big with me. So I just have to say that that's really big with me, you know, put that first and the rest will fall in line. And second would just be, man, just do it. Like Nike, like get out and real estate, whatever you got plans on, just get out there and do it. It may not happen right away, but it will if you put that work in. Work hard, man. Just put that work in.
Dang, bro. That was all right. So, all right, this is like the final 5 questions of the New American Dream podcast. So, first thing that come to your mind, you just hit it out. If you could spend a day with like a mentor or anybody in the world, just like to pick their brain, who would it be?
Man, that's a good one. One person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too cliche here.
Well, we got a couple people that like everybody always say, but let's see.
Maybe my day would be Kobe. I was a huge Kobe fan. I got a poster back there somewhere, and allowed me Barack. He was the president, bro. Like, so.
Hey, that's a first. That's a first. Barack, if you watching this, Kenny want to hang. Nah, just joke. But no, that was the first. I never even thought about that. Like Barack, you would probably know where the key is to the world if you hang out with Barack.
What?
Yeah. All right. So what's something you like, something that makes you nervous? You like, oh crap, you know, you're not really comfortable with doing
it. Makes me nervous. That's a good one. Usually pretty nerves. I don't want to say nothing makes me nervous. This is so cliche, but public speaking sometimes, even though this is a forum, I guess you would say public speaking. Well, not even I don't know, bro.
All right. Hey, look. Hey, Ken, NBA YoungBoy. All right, listen. If you could refer one book to a friend to make them a millionaire, what book would you refer?
The Bible.
Oh man.
And now, second though, bro. I guess I'm gonna be the cliche guy with the answers. Obviously, yeah.
You said Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah, I mean that's like when I got hired in, we were talking about me kind of like learning to save in my 20s.
Yeah.
It all started with that book. I was at my job reading it, and I was like, oh man, I'm about to buy these rims for this car. I'm about to buy this whip. I'm about to buy these speakers. And I read that book, and I was like, I'm not buying none of that stuff. Like,
no, it literally should be mandatory for high school. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like that should be a mandatory book. If I was the president of the school, that would be a must read.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry if y'all see the smoke. That's my little.
Oh.
My sit there. What is that?
No. So, all right, what's something you do to make sure you accomplish like your goals? Like if you got goals set up and evidently you buy these houses so you accomplish your goals, what's something a person who's struggling to check off these goals, what's something they can do to be more successful?
For me, what's huge, bro, is having a system in place, having structure. So I don't care how big your operation is, how small, have something in place, have something that keeps track of your numbers, have something that keeps track of your receipts if you're buying stuff, have something that keeps track of your target audience, like who's buying my product. Have an idea of what you're doing, what your goals are, all of that stuff. Like just keep in mind what if and just all structure. Like for all the houses, I have a folder like this is the title, this is the insurance, this is like everything is broken down and have systems in place. I'm big on like a database of what we're doing, like flips and stuff. All right, we're at this stage, or is the heat turned down to this because heating is expensive? Was this done? Okay, did the contractor send us pictures? All right, if we pay this contractor, make sure he signs off on this, I sign off on it, and make sure we put it in the database that says, hey, this was signed off on. So just having that structure so you can start to delegate and the systems run a lot smoother and faster as you begin to grow. Especially, bro, if you do that at the beginning, to try and once you're already at a certain level.
Man, you hit it. You nailed on the coffin right there. All right. Your version of the American dream, this is funny because are you still working you still currently working, right?
Yes, I don't want to give a timeline on it. I just work, I go there and I do what I got to do. Fortunately, I do a lot of the real estate stuff at work. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I don't have much longer there. But I want to finish out this year strong, just to continue to leverage that W-2, because that's kind of big. And then I'll just say I don't see myself being there too much.
Yeah, so I would say, the old American dream, which our parents and your parents probably lived in, and they want you probably to do, maybe, I don't know. But you would stay to that job until you like 65. Like my mom just retired. Happy retirement, Mom. All right, but yeah, so you would stay to that job until you're 65 years old, and then you were retired. That would be the old American dream. What's your version of the new American dream that you about to do?
For me, I would say I probably did embark on this journey looking for financial freedom, and now it has changed to time freedom. Like I don't want to be the richest person in the world. A lot comes with that, but I do want to be able to have the freedom to be. As far as maybe I am buying houses in Indiana or wherever, but I'm overseas or I'm somewhere. So just to be able to, live my life and enjoy it and be able to live freely and not be stuck at one spot, like, be able to, choose where I go, choose and things like that. And that's where passive income comes in at and investing, because, there is a light at the end of the tunnel that I see that says, hey, I can still make my money and do these things and live my life, but I necessarily don't have to be always 100% involved in the business.
Okay, got it. So let the people know if they want to reach out to you, they got questions, how would they be able to find you?
Yeah. So definitely check me out on Instagram, NWI Real Estate Pro. I'm still pretty active on Facebook. Kenneth Townsel on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm NWI Real Estate Pro. I'm not the biggest on there. I got to get better, and I'm terrible on TikTok. I guess I'm not. I missed that whole wave. Me and my marketing media manager got some ideas coming up for TikTok. So stay tuned. We'll be on there. And YouTube, we try to document a lot of the flips and stuff. So it's gonna be a lot of content coming on there. And it's the same thing, NWI Real Estate Pro. So out, use some also in 2022, I'm offering like classes and mentorship and consultations. So feel free, check me out. We sit down, get you guys in the real estate game, answer some questions like we did earlier with Melissa, and see who else we can get involved in this real estate game. Man, it's not that difficult. So that's where you guys can find me at.
All right. Appreciate it, man, for coming on the show.
Love, bro. Appreciate it. Hope all is well, and you have a great Christmas, bro.